Hello and welcome to this tutorial. I'm going to demonstrate how to make a smooth circle in Jasmine stitch with no pointy corners. These can be used as trivets or coasters. The possibilities are endless. We will start with a magic circle, and here's how I make one. Start with the yarn across your hand like this, hold it with your thumb against your finger, and wrap it around, making an X across the back of your hand, and then hold the working yarn with your baby finger. Then insert under the top right arm of the X and over the top left arm and pull that loop under and over like this. Then just work a chain one with the working yarn that's held under your baby finger. And that locks the circle so that now you can take your fingers out and you should have a circle that you can tighten using the yarn tail. So we're going to start the first round of this circle by working a puff stitch. Pull the working loop up to a height of around 2 centimeters or 0.8 inches. Yarn over, then pull up a loop from within the magic circle. And do that a total of 3 times so that you have 7 loops on the hook, with all the loops being around the same height. Then pinch the working yarn firmly at the base of the stitch to hold it back while you yarn over and pull through all 7 loops on the hook. Then go back under that held back loop, yarn over and work a slip stitch and a chain one to finish the stitch. So that is our puff stitch worked. Just tighten up the magic circle if it's getting out of control. If you need help with that, I recommend watching my video on the basic Jasmine stitch, which is linked in the description. The next stitch we're going to work is a Jasmine stitch increase. We're going to be pulling up loops from within this space here, which is beneath the slip stitch that we just worked to finish the puff stitch. A Jasmine increase is just a Jasmine stitch with 2 petals. So start by pulling up the working loop again to 2 centimeters, yarn over and pull up a loop from under the slip stitch you just worked a total of 3 times so that you have 7 loops on the hook. Then work the second petal by repeating that but from within the magic circle. So yarn over and pull up a loop from the magic circle a total of 3 times. You've now added 6 loops to the hook for a total of 13. Distribute it across 2 petals. Then hold the working yarn back again, yarn over and pull through all 13 loops on the hook. Go back under that held back loop, work a slip stitch and a chain one to finish. That's 1 Jasmine increase completed. We're going to do that 3 more times. Always start each stitch by pulling the working loop up tall, yarn over and pull up loops from the eye at the base of that stitch. From now on, we're going to call that space under the slip stitch the eye. So there is our first petal completed with 7 loops. Then pull up loops from within the magic circle to complete the second petal. 13 loops on the hook, pinch the working yarn, yarn over and pull through all 13. Go back under that held back loop, yarn over and work a slip stitch and a chain one to finish. So that's 2 completed. Let's work the third one. Pull up the working loop and draw up your loops. First petal done, second petal into the magic circle, and complete the stitch in the usual way. So I am going to start fast forwarding a bit through my pulling up of loops because it does get repetitive. I'm assuming here that you've got that basic technique down pat. So here I am working the 4th Jasmine increase. The second petal is going into the magic circle, 2 petals, 13 loops, pull through them all, slip stitch and chain one to finish. So that's our 4 increases completed. Let's count them. Here is the first puff stitch that we worked, and there is 1, 2, 3, 4 Jasmine increases. So you can tighten the circle now, although we are going to use it 1 more time. To complete round 1, we're going to work a regular Jasmine stitch, which has 3 petals instead of only 2. So work the first petal the exact same way as for an increase, and then work the second petal the same way again into the magic circle, just like we did for our increases. So 13 loops on the hook at the end of the second petal. Now we're going to work a third petal under the slip stitch, which is the next one down the line. You can't go wrong, but it is actually the slip stitch that is at the top of the puff stitch that we worked at the very beginning of the round. So this creates a seamless join. 3 petals, a total of 19 loops on the hook. Hold the yarn back in the usual way and complete the stitch with a slip stitch, and don't forget the chain one to finish it. So there is our first regular jasmine stitch with its 3 petals. This completes the circle with its 6 petal jasmine flower in the center and 6 puff stitches around the outer edge. Round 2 and every subsequent round is going to start with a jasmine increase, so a 2 petal jasmine stitch. Pull up the working loop to your consistent height of around 2 centimeters, yarn over, and pull up a loop 3 times from within the eye of the previous stitch. It's just the space at the base of the working loop under the slip stitch that you just worked. Then work a second petal into the next eye around the outside of your circle. Once you're finished working that increase, I do recommend placing a marker on the slip stitch once you've finished it. I place it on the front loop of that slip stitch because that allows me to still work into the eye without interference from the marker. Next, we are going to space 5 more increases around the circle. Every round in our circle requires 6 increases in order to lie flat. This final regular jasmine stitch that we will work at the end of the round should land with its 3rd petal worked into the marked eye, so this increase here. This creates a seamless join. However, in the future we have the option of creating that seamless join by working a 4-petal jasmine stitch at the end of the round. This functions as a decrease, so when combined with this starting increase, the two cancel each other out, so this starting increase doesn't count as an increase. This gives us more flexibility in placing our increases around the circle, which becomes important because eventually they need to be staggered to avoid pointy corners. But for this round, that increase we just worked is going to count as an increase. So now I'm just working this first regular jasmine stitch with its 3 petals. Work it in the usual way. You can't go wrong if you just place each consecutive petal in the next eye around the outside of the circle. So finish that stitch in the usual way, and we're going to follow that with a jasmine increase. And then we're going to repeat that jasmine stitch, jasmine increase combination a total of 5 times. So now to work a 2-petal stitch. So there's an increase. Now we're going to work another jasmine stitch to repeat that pattern a 2nd time, and we're going to do it a total of 5 times. So jumping ahead to where I'm just finishing the last increase of the 5th repetition of that pair of stitches. So finishing up that last increase of our round. Now take a look at what we have. We should have 3 eyes remaining in which to work the final 3-petal jasmine stitch. And we do, so we know we haven't made any mistakes. So now to work that final 3-petal stitch, start it in the usual way. Work into the next available eye, and the 3rd petal here is going to be worked into the marked eye. So remove the marker to get it out of the way and work the 3rd petal. Then complete the stitch in the usual way, and that finishes off the round. So once we finish that stitch, you should be able to see that we have more or less a circle. That last stitch tends to be kind of pulled up, so I poke it down with my finger to make it more round. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty smooth and round so far. And if you count these outer puff stitches, you should have exactly 12. So moving on to round 3. Every round, like I said, starts by working an increase, so a 2-petal jasmine stitch. And once it's finished and the slip stitch has been worked, and the chain 1, place a marker on the slip stitch. Again, I just place it on the front loop of the slip stitch, and that keeps it out of the way. Next, we're going to work 2 regular jasmine stitches followed by a jasmine increase, and we're going to work that repeat a total of 5 times. So this round is worked very similarly to round 2. We're going to space our 6 jasmine increases around the circle, with each one separated by 2 regular jasmine stitches this time instead of only 1. So just working the second of our 2 regular jasmine stitches here. There's our 3 petals. If you ever need to count them, just go back to the marker and count the puff stitches. So now I'm working the increase. 2 petals, finish the stitch. So that is our first repeat. Now we need to do that another 4 times. So skipping ahead to where I've done that 4 times, here is my last repeat with 2 jasmines followed by an increase. So now I'm going to work these 2 final regular jasmine stitches that the pattern indicates to finish off the round. So the first petal done, the second petal, and now the third petal going in. Complete that regular jasmine stitch. That's the first one. Now we're going to work a second one, and the second one should land with its third petal worked into the marked eye. So there's the second petal going in, remove the marker and work the third petal into the marked eye. So everything is pretty straightforward so far. Just finish that last jasmine stitch and that completes round 3. But just take a look here. That one we can sort of smooth down, but do you see these pointy corners? Those are where we've worked increases. So in order to avoid making that worse, we really need to stagger the increases in round 4 so that they don't land exactly on top of where the previous increases are. Round 4 starts as any other round with a jasmine increase, so work your 2 petal stitch. And once you've finished it, place a marker on the eye of that increase. It's surprisingly easy to burn right past it at the end of the round, so I do recommend using the marker. Round 4 now is worked a little differently. In order to have the flexibility, like I said, to stagger our increases exactly where we want them to avoid creating a pointy hexagon, we're going to finish this round with a 4-petal jasmine decrease, worked adjacent to this starting increase. So the increase we just worked won't count as an increase. So we still need to place 6 increases around our circle. The best way to do that in this round to avoid working increases on top of other increases is to work 1 jasmine, an increase, and then our 3 jasmines followed by an increase a total of 5 times, and then work the 4-petal decrease at the end. Start with a regular jasmine stitch, 3 petals. The first petal, of course, is worked right into the eye of that increase that we just finished. Finish that regular jasmine stitch and then work our first increase. And as you can see here, there are 6 increases in total here, in addition to the one we worked at the beginning. And just taking a quick look, here is the increase from the round before, and we're not going to be working an increase anywhere near there. So this is going to smooth out our corners nicely. So working our first increase now, follow that with 3 regular jasmine stitches and then place another increase. So we're going to burn right past the increase from the round before when we work these 3 regular jasmine stitches. So that is what I mean when I talk about staggering the increases. The reason why I am explaining this in such detail is that once you understand how to construct this circle, then you can make one any size you want. So skipping ahead to where we've completed the last of these repetitions, there's the increase in 1, 2, 3 regular jasmines and then our last increase. Now we have 4 eyes remaining, including the marked one and the one at the base of the working loop, into which we will work a 4-petal jasmine stitch, which, like I mentioned earlier, is a decrease in jasmine stitch. It's worked exactly the same way as a regular one. You just add a 4th petal onto the end, which does add an additional 6 loops onto the hook. We should land with the 4th petal being worked into the marked eye, so just remove the marker, it does get in the way, and work a 4th petal. So yarn over and pull up a loop another 3 times, adding another 6 loops to the hook for a total of 25 loops on the hook. I don't have space to show you how they're kind of divided into 4 petals here, but the stitch is finished in exactly the same way. Yarn over and draw through all 25. Make sure you cinch it quite tightly so you don't have a gaping eye, and then work your slip stitch in your chain 1 to finish it. So that does create a nice seamless join. We've staggered our increases such that we've smoothed out those pointy corners, but of course any round where we've worked an increase, we do tend to see slight pointiness from those increases, and we will deal with that later on as well. Round 5 is worked in a similar way. Always start by working an increase, so a 2-petal stitch, and place a marker on the eye of that stitch. Next, we're going to work another increase, so 2 increases in a row. Again, the point here is that this is what's required to best stagger the increases around the circle. And as you can see, this round also finishes with a jasmine decrease. So that means that the first increase we worked, the one with the marker on it, is not going to count as an increase. So you can see there are 6 additional increases distributed throughout this round. And the remainder are going to be separated by 4 regular jasmine stitches. So here I am starting the first of 4 regular jasmine stitches. So looking back, there's our increase, our second increase, and then a regular jasmine stitch. So then the 4 regular jasmines are going to allow us to burn right past the increase from the previous row, and then we will not exaggerate any of our pointy corners. Skipping ahead to where I've completed this repeat, so I've worked 4 regular jasmines followed by the increase. So I'm just finishing the increase here. Here you can see the increase from the round before. So now I'm going to be working 4 regular jasmine stitches, and I'm going to be going right over top when I do that of that increase from the round before. So the increases that we're working on this round are more or less halfway in between the ones from the previous round, so they won't line up. I think you've got the concept of that at this point. So here I am at the end of the round. There's an increase, 1, 2, 3, 4 jasmines and an increase. So that was my 5th repeat of that 5-stitch repeat. Now it's time to work, as the pattern states, 2 regular jasmine stitches. And again, if we've played our cards right, once we finish these 2 regular jasmines, we should have just enough eyes left to work our decrease. So there's the second of the 2 regular jasmine stitches. And there are 4 remaining eyes into which we will work our 4-petal decrease, which cancels out that very first increase of the round, the one with the marker on it. So it doesn't count, giving us a total of 6 increases for this round, which is what we always need to have. So 2 petals finished, working the 3rd petal now, and removing the marker so that I can easily work the 4th petal. And draw through all of those like a drawstring, cinching them fairly tight, and completing with a slip stitch and a chain 1. So yet again, we still have our scenario with our slight pointiness. Whenever we work an increase in jasmine stitch, we're going to see that. But we won't worry about those edges yet because we're not finished our circle. So round 6 carries on in the same way. Start with an increase, place a marker on it, and then we're going to just continue to distribute our increases evenly around the circle. This time we're going to start with 3 regular jasmines, then work our first increase, and after that the remaining increases will be separated by 5 jasmine stitches, which is logical because the last round they were separated by 4. So nothing new in this round, just a slightly staggered placement of the increases as usual. So skipping to the end, after the point that I have worked the final increase, we have 4 remaining eyes in which to work our final jasmine decrease. So once again, the increase at the beginning of round 6 does not count as an increase, and we work our 4-petal decrease to balance it off. And that completes round 6. Still with pointy corners. How are we going to avoid that on the finished edge of our project? So round 7 addresses that problem. It starts as usual with an increase, and there it is worked for us as if by magic. Now we are going to do something quite different. We're going to work a total of 12 increases in this round, and so they're only going to be separated by 3 regular jasmine stitches. So after the first increase of the round, the one with the marker on it, we work 3 regular jasmines, and so I'm just working the first one of those here. Then an increase, and we repeat that 11 times. The reason why we are working all 12 increases in one round is that this then allows us to work an entire round afterwards without working any increases, and that will almost eliminate any pointiness from the increases in the round before. So back to our project, I've skipped ahead to where I'm working the last of the 3 regular jasmine stitches that complete this round. And you can see that the third one has its third petal worked into the marked eye. And remember, we joined to the first increase of the round using a regular jasmine stitch and not a decrease. That means that the first increase we worked counted as an increase. So that's why we only had to add an additional 11-ish as we worked around. We're nearing the end. Our final round of this circle is a very simple one. We're just going to work all the way around round 8 in regular jasmine stitch. We do have to start with an increase, and oh, there's an ugly join in my yarn. I probably should cut that out, but I'm not going to. So again, we always do start every round with an increase so that we can join to it at the end and create a seamless join. And don't forget the marker. But after that, you can just work all the way around in jasmine stitch without counting. You are going to work exactly 46 jasmine stitches, but you don't need to count them, as long as you understand that when you get to the end, you are going to be working a jasmine decrease, because remember, this is an even, no increase round. So we don't want that first increase that we worked to count as an increase. So we will be working a 4 petal into it at the end. So just make sure you stop working when you have exactly 4 eyes remaining in which to work that 4 petal stitch. So here I am working what I think is the final jasmine stitch of the round, number 46 it should be. Struggling with it a little bit there. And then just checking I'm close to the marker, so I stop and count my eyes, and I do have 4 remaining. So now it's time to work the final jasmine decrease. And worked into the marked increase, that will create a seamless join and completes round 8. Now, if you want the trivet larger, this is generally where I stop, but all you need to do is continue to work around placing a total of 12 increases every second round. So after this, I don't recommend going back to placing 6 per round. There's no reason to. And in fact, the farther apart the increases are, the more conspicuous they are. So I recommend continuing to work 12 increases at a time and then separating those increase rounds by an even round, and ending, of course, on an even round so that your edges are smooth. So that's how I make jasmine circles. I hope I've explained the construction so that you can play around with it yourself and make a circle of any size. The pattern that you can download for free from my website does give you instructions if you want to make a smaller circle. It introduces the concept of the 12 increase round at an earlier stage. I hope this video helped. Thank you for watching.